Peace is a fragile, almost invisible thing. You only realize its value once it begins to slip, like water through your fingers. I remember the summer when I truly believed I had it all. My children laughing in the backyard, chasing each other through the sprinkler, their squeals cutting through the heat of the afternoon, while Oliver called out from the porch, a smile lighting up his tired face as he removed his tie. My name is Grace. I was 35 years old, married to Oliver, the man I trusted with my heart, my home, and my children. Together we lived in a small Pennsylvania town, where streets were lined with maples that blazed gold in the autumn, and neighbours waved as you drove by. Our house was modest, yes, but filled with warmth, the smell of freshly baked bread, laughter echoing through the hallway, the gentle hum of our old stereo in the living room. For years I thought life was permanent. That peace was something I could hold on to forever. And then Hannah moved in next door. She had a small son, and I remember the first time I walked over with a plate of cookies in my hand, introducing myself. She smiled, shy and grateful, her eyes tired but hopeful. Over cups of coffee and casual conversation, she shared stories of her struggles as a single mother, of nights spent worrying about bills and safety, of heartbreak and loneliness. I listened, empathized, and opened my home to her, never suspecting that the very act of kindness would later be my undoing. Oliver helped her with small things, fixing a leaky faucet, installing shelves, carrying boxes. I believed it was generosity. I believed it was a love and friendship. Little did I know that trust, once extended, can be weaponized. At first, everything seemed harmless. We shared dinners, celebrated holidays together, and my children began calling her Aunt Hannah. I was proud of our generosity, our ability to welcome someone in need. But slowly, I noticed subtleties that made my stomach twist. The way she laughed at Oliver's jokes, too long, too soft. The lingering glances between them when I thought no one was looking. My heart whispered warnings I tried to silence. The first cracks were small, almost imperceptible. Oliver's absences grew longer. At dinner, he would smile absent-mindedly, his attention elsewhere. I told myself it was work stress, deadlines, pressure. But sometimes I caught him leaning against the fence, talking to Hannah in a way that felt intimate. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things, but then came the little digs, compliments disguised as jabs. "You're lucky Oliver helps around the house," she said once, as I handed her lemonade. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. There was a sharpness beneath her words, a subtle attempt to erode my confidence. Even my children noticed. One night, my daughter Lily whispered as I tucked her in, "Mummy, why was Daddy holding Aunt Hannah's hand in the kitchen?" I smiled and kissed her forehead. "You must have imagined it, sweetie," I said, but inside my chest burned. Children see truths adults try to hide, and yet I clung to peace, fragile and fleeting, until the day I finally saw it for myself. The kids were asleep, the house hushed except for the rhythmic tapping of rain against the windows. I sat in the living room, tea cooling in my hand, when I heard a soft, familiar laugh. My heart tightened. I moved to the window, just a crack in the curtain. There they were, Oliver and Hannah, too close, too intimate, under the dim glow of her porch light. His hand brushed her cheek. She leaned into him. Laughter, warmth, closeness, all stolen from me, right in my own backyard. I backed away, breath caught in my throat. My world shifted in an instant. Weeks passed, and I gathered proof. Screenshots, messages, call logs. Words like, "I can't stop thinking about you," and "last night was incredible," burned themselves into my memory. The word she, me, was in every line. I sank to the floor, trembling, crying silently. But beneath the heartbreak, a strange clarity formed. I would not be destroyed. I would not scream. I would not beg. I would rise. I documented every detail, every late-night visit, every stolen moment. I consulted a lawyer to understand my rights, protect my children, and plan for exposure without compromising myself. And I waited. Evenings became my study of their movements, their behaviours. I smiled, laughed, performed the part of the unsuspecting wife, while inside I was a storm of calculated observation. I learned that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet, deliberate patience to observe, collect evidence, and plan your move. True revenge is precision, not impulse. And when the moment came, I would strike with undeniable clarity. The moment of truth arrived quietly, almost deceptively ordinary. Oliver's phone was left unattended on the kitchen counter, charging. I hesitated. I had never been the type to snoop, to pry into someone else's private life. But betrayal changes everything. That quiet moral line, once sacred, suddenly blurred. With trembling hands, I picked up the phone. Every message confirmed my deepest fears. Screenshots of intimate conversations with Hannah, secret meetings, whispered confessions, all dripping with desire and secrecy. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was incredible. She'll never know. She. That was me. I sank into the living room chair, shaking, heart pounding, tears streaming down my face. The house was silent except for the rain against the window and the distant hum of the refrigerator. I had trusted Oliver with my heart, my home, my life, and he had chosen someone else. Hours passed. I replayed every scene in my mind, their laughter in the backyard, their glances that lingered too long, the smiles that weren't meant for me. Anger, heartbreak, disbelief, they all collided inside me. But beneath the chaos, clarity emerged. Revenge would not be loud. It would not be about screaming or confrontation. It would be precise, deliberate, and undeniable. I had months of careful observation, documentation, and legal preparation behind me. I knew that patience was my ally and that when the time came, the truth would leave them powerless. I spent the next days meticulously organising every message, every call, every suspicious encounter. My journal became a strategic log of their deceit. I visualised the confrontation repeatedly, rehearsing my words, my tone, my calm. I knew that composure would be my most powerful weapon. Even as I watched Oliver and Hannah walk through the motions of normalcy, laughing, smiling, oblivious, I felt a quiet satisfaction. They believed I didn't know. They believed they were untouchable. I was ready to prove them wrong. The Sunday I chose to act was calm. The sky was pale, sunlight softened by thin clouds. Neighbours strolled past, unaware that betrayal was about to be exposed behind my front door. But inside me, months of planning, observation and patience had reached their peak. I had everything in place. The evidence folder carefully organised, each page a damning record of deceit. Oliver entered the kitchen, coffee in hand, smiling at our children playing quietly in the yard. Hannah's car was conveniently parked next door, everything aligned perfectly. "Oliver," I called calmly, "come here for a minute." He hesitated, confused, and followed me to the living room. I gestured to the folder on the coffee table. "Sit, look." His expression shifted from confusion to pale horror as he flipped through page after page. Messages of intimacy, secrecy, and betrayal. Every word, every detail laid bare. A knock at the door announced Hannah's arrival. She carried a dish, her composure faltering as she saw the folder. Panic flashed across her eyes, replaced quickly by her practiced mask of control. "Grace," she began, voice wavering. "Save it," I said firmly. "You've said enough." Oliver tried to justify, to apologise, to charm his way out. Hannah attempted protests, but there was no escape. The weight of truth was suffocating. Their confidence, once bold, crumbled under the undeniable evidence. I stood, calm, collected, hands steady. "You both will leave my house. Oliver, my lawyer, will contact you. Hannah, leave this neighbourhood. People will see who you really are." They left, defeated, shamed. And as the door closed behind them, a profound clarity settled in. I had not lost. They had. The weeks after were strange, quiet, and bittersweet. Oliver attempted contact with apologies and excuses, but I ignored them. Betrayal had revealed the truth, and the truth had set me free. Hannah disappeared from the neighbourhood, and eventually her house was sold. I turned inward. Mornings became sacred, quiet, walks, journaling, painting, reflection. I reclaimed passions long abandoned. Each brushstroke, each note, each quiet moment of solitude reminded me that life could be beautiful again. I discovered profound lessons. Revenge is not about destruction. It's about reclaiming your life. Strength is quiet, patient, and deliberate. Peace is earned, not given. Survival is transforming betrayal into power. I taught my children resilience by example. I never spoke ill of Oliver or forced choices. Instead, I showed strength, patience, and the ability to rise above deception. Months turned into years. I built friendships anew, strengthened old bonds, and created a home thriving on trust, love, and respect. Scars remained, but they were reminders not of defeat, but of endurance and growth. Looking back, betrayal was a harsh teacher, but it forced me to discover resilience, patience, and strength I never knew I had. To anyone who feels deceived, abandoned, or broken, know this: pain can become your foundation for growth. You can rise. You can reclaim your life. You can thrive beyond betrayal. I share my story not for sympathy, but for empowerment. My name is Grace, and I am not a victim. I am a woman reborn,